The Lifetime Achievement Award honors an Oklahoman who's dedicated their life to serving their community, improving the quality of life for Oklahoma citizens and its future generations.
Justice Stephen W. Taylor is perhaps best known for presiding over the Oklahoma City bombing trial, one of the most complex and high-profile trials in our state's history.
From former mayor of McAllister to inductee into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, he's a champion for justice and education. In fact, during LOK's McAllister class sessions, he's been a poignant speaker for Leadership Oklahoma for many years, and we cannot thank him enough for giving us his time.
We can honestly go on and on about Justice Taylor, or as I know him, the State Regent Taylor, and what he has done for his community in McAllister, Oklahoma City, and our state. But let's hear from Justice Taylor himself, and you will see how deserving he is to be our 2025 Lifetime Achievement Honoree.
My style of leadership is oftentimes not from the front of the room, from maybe the back of the room, being an example, being a leader by supporting the organization and the elected leadership of the organization. The first opportunity I had to practice leadership was president of the student council, president of the student body at McAllister High School. This was in 1966 and 1967. I call it a laboratory for leadership. I mean, it's practicing being a leader, and I thought of it just as part of my education. So I already knew then that I was thinking about law school and public service. I was the treasurer of my fraternity for 2 years. That required a lot of leadership because I had to make a lot of tough decisions that a lot of my fraternity brothers didn't really agree with. The Marine Corps taught me mission-driven leadership, as we say in the Marine Corps, taking the hill. It was the time during Vietnam when I knew I was going to be going into military service. Back then, they needed lawyers, and so they let me finish law school. I got to spend all those years, those 4 years, in the courtroom, and then I was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time and serve as a military judge my last year, and I was very young. And that gave me a taste of something I truly came to love, and then spent the rest of my life doing it. I love being in the courtroom. I spent 20 years as a district judge. I tried thousands of trials. I've always considered the judicial branch of government to be the adults in the room, problem solvers. We do the tough problem solving for society. When I was in junior high, I had the honor of getting to meet with then Congressman Carl Albert, later Speaker Carl Albert, and with then Lieutenant Governor George Nye, later Governor George Nye. Carl Albert became a mentor. When I went on the bench, he was the first one to be calling the governor to appoint me to the bench in 1984. The governor happened to be George Nye. George Nye appointed me to my first position in the judiciary in 1984. When Carl Albert retired from speakership and moved back to McAllister, we went to the same church. And when it got to the point that he couldn't drive, I would on Sunday mornings go pick him up and take him to church. And so I learned so much from him just in an informal setting, driving back and forth to church or taking him to Ada or to Muskogee or whatever. I loved him. I got to have good, close friendship with Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. I met her through Judge Robert Honoree, a very, very wonderful lady. I loved being a Supreme Court justice. You know, what's not to like about being a Supreme Court justice? It was the greatest honor of my life. But where I really made the most difference was as a district judge in the courtroom in Pittsburgh and McIntosh County. I wouldn't trade it for anything. The state trial of the Oklahoma City bombing case was a significant turn in my life. You know, it consumed an entire year. During that time, my whole concentration was on that mission. By the time we were going to try that case, you know, the whole world knew about this. It was a huge undertaking. I look back on it and it's just, I can remember every minute of it. The motivation for the bombing of the Murrah building, the Oklahoma City bombing, the perpetrators, McVeigh and Nichols, hated our government. And after the trial, the state trial of the bombing in McAllister that I presided over, when it was concluded, and at the time of sentencing, and I hadn't really planned to say this, but it just struck me, we had been working hard to assure that there was a fair trial, and we had a fair trial. And at the end, at the time of sentencing, when I was sentencing the defendant, I looked at him and I said, you know, it is ironic that the government, the Constitution that you hate so much, is the government and Constitution that was good enough and strong enough to give you a fair trial. This award from Leadership Oklahoma really means a lot to me because of my relationship with Leadership Oklahoma. I have spoken to every class but one, and so I've gotten to interact with every class, and it's just a really good idea. This Leadership Oklahoma that was started up by a lot of really good people back in the day, it has turned out to be exactly what they planned it to be, and that is a laboratory for leadership, training future leaders in Oklahoma. As my good friend Boone Pickens used to say, I'm so old I don't buy green bananas anymore. The governor appointed me to the State Regents for Higher Education. That has been a wonderful experience. I've learned so much, tried to make a difference as a state regent. I think I have. I'm serving on a bank board on a community bank in McAllister. I'm much involved at the Oklahoma City National Memorial, much involved at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. And so in retirement, what's next is that I just have to stay busy. And I found it quite easy to stay busy. It's, you know, I found out you can be really busy when you work for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help give a warm welcome to our Lifetime Achievement Honoree, Justin Stephen W. Taylor.
Thank you all very much. The truth of the old African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child is demonstrated here tonight. The village that raised me were my family and my friends in McAllister, and then as I got older, friends who supported me all over Oklahoma. Tennyson said it best, I am a part of all that I've met. This Leadership Oklahoma organization I have very high regard for and have participated, I think, 35 or 36 times over the 37 years. So all of you have all heard me talk, and I won't talk long. And I have a very high regard for the mission of this organization, and that is training leaders for Oklahoma. Allison Anthony, perfect example. It has taken a village to raise me. But I, even at age 75, I am still a child of Oklahoma. I'm not finished. I have a lot more to do. And Robert Frost wrote, I have miles to go before I sleep, miles to go before I sleep.